In this work for Tamara Barraj, who is an artist residing in Beirut, she creates for me these sculptures that are attached to the wall. They're made out of casts of cauliflower covered with resin and seeming in like a light box. They look like brains asleep to me. I felt that they are alive, but they are currently in a status of harnessing light and darkness, which I found very appealing to start the show with. In these series of paintings by Dina Khouri, an artist that is residing in Berlin but studied at Ashkal Alwan 3 years ago, she renounced the canvas and uses mesh, which is obviously a see-through surface, allowing the paint to kind of penetrate it. For her, this puncturing is also something that captures this idea of loss. In this work by Haytham al-Wardani, Haytham is a contemporary of Dina Khouri, and he also studied with her in Ashkal Alwan 3 years ago, and he also produced a lot of work that is about drawing. In this multitude of references that we see here, he tackles the idea of the tabula rasa, mainly looking at the political projects of gentrification that happened in Beirut through his experience of the city, but also resonating elsewhere in Palestine and other places where even colonial projects took place. What we find here is an obsessive form of painting that is covering a multitude of things. Any source of paper, envelopes, even little snippets of bread and shells, oyster shells, jars, and he just covers it up with color and paints. Also, we find in this particular section that he's created a virtual reality game, an interactive game for the audiences to look at in these kind of various build-ups of images. We come to a series of participatory social projects or socially interventionist projects, like this one here by Sandy Hilal and Alessandro Petti. This is a project they call the Tree School, Mujawara, and they did it in Brazil, where they took a native tree from Africa that has the baobab that went to Brazil hundreds of years ago, and they use it as a metaphor to ask about questions of belonging. How do refugees assimilate into places? Do they return? What are the politics of return that are associated with such interrogation? They allow it to be in the format of a seated circle, and they have a book that has documented that particular experience of the work they did in Brazil. In this piece we have here on this wall, we have Tushar Jwag, an artist from India who did an interventionist project in Mumbai in a street. He walked the street of Mumbai and he put a telephone where he randomly would call and allow people to answer the phone. He had more than 100 participants, and he asked them about sleep, sleeplessness, and being awake. The phone conversations are recorded and people can listen to them here, and they're also transcribed in the books that are available here in this installation. This particular piece, it's a more literal interpretation of the idea of sleep. We have Yonghei Cheng Heavy Industries, a duo that have created this video early on in 2005, adapted it for us here in Beirut, and they ask about the art of sleep. And using this text-based video, they really talk about this idea of an insomniac who can't fall asleep and questions what is art, arriving at the conclusion in a semi-surreal way that art is everything. And a liberation for the project of art is what is required. In this social interventionist project, we have Rami Farouk from the Emirates, from Dubai. He does a gesture for his community where he, in empty plots of land across Dubai, he puts goalposts, and he just leaves these goalposts for creating these spaces of interactivity and play for his society. Laborers' children are then using these empty plots of land that would usually be slotted for a building or else. In this project by Sijil is a collective from here in Beirut. They had worked 3 years ago on helping a welder and a photographer build a model for a windmill that generates electricity for a hospital. And this windmill was used for 24 hours to generate electricity in Syria for a hospital. Unfortunately, it was recently destroyed. What they've created here for this exhibition is a monument, a temporary monument that serves as a battery and generates electricity and is made out of 24 cells representing the time that this windmill was active. They also had prepared a book, which is here on view for the public, called Current Power in Syria, really talking about the history of who controls electricity, and here they use it as i.e. power, giving it back in a gesture to the people. In the piece inside by Forensic Architecture, we have a lot of images, photographs, aerial photographs, and videos documenting what Forensic Architecture have done as a breakthrough in the idea of the study of space, and that is providing for investigative architecture that aids oppressed societies and oppressed people in their legal battles for various minorities. In this case in particular, we have them working with the Bedouin village, Al-Araqib, inside Israel-Palestine. And this Bedouin village, which has Israeli citizenship, has faced demolitions from Israel and politics of trying to be razed to the ground. So they provided them with photographic documentation of these many unfortunate violent infringements that have been happening by the State of Israel. In this installation by Praneet Soy, an artist who's based between Amsterdam and Kolkata, he really focuses the light on Kashmir. And Kashmir here is known to be under the military occupation of India. And it faces real kind of blackening out in the media. For him, he goes to a group of craftsmen that he works with in Kashmir on this tradition of papier-mâché tiles that they create, and makes a melding pot of references of images from various cultures, Iran, India, basically a lot of melding from the East, and he puts them in these really beautiful images that we see implemented on the tiles. In a way, this is shedding the light to a level of humanity and beauty that resonates from Kashmir, and hopefully sheds the light on what is happening in terms of their oppression. For this work, this is Superflex from Denmark, a collective from Denmark that have made contact with a hospital in Gaza after it was bombed. Shifa Hospital was bombed and razed to the ground after the assault in 2011. And they contacted the hospital and asked them what did they need. And the hospital answered back that it required a surgical equipment. They raised the money through collectors, 3 collectors in particular, and they showed the work as a reversal of the ready-made in a gallery, and then gave back each collector an image of this object. The object is now being used in the hospital in Gaza and continues to save lives. In the last section of this exhibition, we see mainly works that deal with bread. And digestion here is also an important metaphor, because I thought of digestion as a way to think of also a form of natural sleep that requires a way of awakening for the body. I like the political reversal that is also about the ready-made. Here, the bread that is mainly used for utility is by Los Carpinteros, which is another collective that use the bread and create from it basically a lamp or something that projects light and no longer is used for sustenance. And here they also created a ceramic group of biscuits, and with them they have the words that in 2013 in Cuba, the most repeated words in the media: security, justice, republic, all of the kind of pivotal words that prohibition, these were the words that were repeated the most in 2013. This series of group of works really starts to approach the idea of death. It's by the veteran artist Khalil Ghrib from Morocco, from Asila. Khalil is a Sufist, a Darwish, who refuses to produce work to sell it. He thinks that the object is made by the artist, and the reasoning behind it is he makes it out of natural matter and allows it to decay and die. And in many ways, he's calling for the death of matter. If humans die, then objects should also accompany them in this language of the cycle of death. The last piece we see is by another collective. So collectives is something that is really something I really felt an affinity to and wanted to show it in the language of arts. In this work, it's by Claire Fontaine, and they created a commissioned painting for the Sursuq Museum using anti-vandal paint, which is paint that is used for security organizations or else to prevent theft. People are not allowed to touch the walls. The walls that are usually the safety for harnessing painting become the language, the obtruse language that cause also, in this case, a sense of insecurity.